Well, hello everyone. It's Thor, and today we are going to be looking at the astrology chart of Kate, Princess of Wales. As many of you know, she's married to Prince William, so she's a very notable figure in the world. So that's why we're really taking a look at the chart. But also the recent Netflix docu-series Harry and Meghan. Again, there's been these allegations that the royal family wasn't too supportive, according to Harry and Meghan. And so we're going to look at the chart of Kate to really try to understand who Kate is on a karmic level, but also understand what kind of karma Kate is experiencing now and what kind of karma is going to be experienced in the near future. And also, what I want to look at is, are Harry and Meghan really correctly, are they giving us an accurate picture of who Kate is? Because they kind of made it look like there was a little bit of a rivalry there. Do you guys remember that with William and Kate on one side and Harry and Meghan on the other side? And there were some allegations that there might have been some jealousy because of Kate or Harry and Meghan's popularity. So we're going to really look at that. Is this really noted in the chart of Kate, Princess of Wales? We'll take a look at that. For those of you that are new to my channel, make sure that you like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see whenever I drop new videos. I do love making videos about the royal family, especially because they take really good records of the royal family. We always have birth times. Maybe that's a tradition from the old times when they used to have astrologers in the royal court. So maybe that's why. I practice Vedic astrology for those of you that are new to my channel, which is the astrology from ancient India. So your sign might be different in Vedic astrology than it is with Western tropical astrology. My goal is 10,000 subscribers, and we're just over 1,700. So I feel like we are growing. So thank you all for your wonderful support. Very appreciative of all that. And if you're interested in a private personal reading, you can go to my website. Details are down below. It's 40% off right now for the holidays. So if you're interested, check that out. Now, before we go to the reading with Kate here and we look at Kate's chart, I want you to know that this is all allegedly's and alleged statements based on my interpretation of the astrological karma in Kate's chart. So, in by no means does this represent, what Kate might actually think. This is just my interpretation of the karma that we're seeing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the chart here. All right. Now, the first thing I want you all to notice is Kate is a Cancer ascendant. And Cancer people tend to be very family oriented, usually very devoted to their children because it's a very maternal type, nurturing type of sign. Even men that are born as Cancer ascendant tend to be at least protective. So there's this idea of setting up your own little personal protection bubble. And even if it's not your house or your home, there's this idea of setting up these really strong protective boundaries. Because if you all remember, the analogy is that of a crab wanting to be inside of its shell. So Cancer people tend to be very family oriented and tend to be people that wear their hearts on their sleeve. So that's why they tend to be sometimes private people, because they can get easily hurt on an emotional level. So also, one thing to take notice with Kate's chart is her moon is in the 12th house. There's a lot of information we can get with that. People with moon in the 12th house tend to be very empathic type of people. They tend to be people that can pick up on the energies around them. So when Harry and Meghan in the documentary, they were making this assertion that, Meghan was a lot like Princess Diana. I would say that Princess Kate seems to be a lot like Diana in the fact that there's this really empathic type of compassionate chart that I'm seeing with Moon being in the 12th house. So this shows somebody that's very spiritually inclined as well, and somebody who likes to be private. They're very private about their emotions and their thoughts. So this isn't the chart of somebody who likes being in the spotlight at all. So if, with the royal duties that Kate has, according to the chart, um, they're probably very difficult for her because she's a very private person, with Moon being in the 12th house and Rahu being in the 12th house. So she will do what she needs to do because there is a sense of duty there with Saturn and Mars together. This can create somebody who's very duty bound. But there is definitely an uncomfortability when I see Moon and Rahu together in the 12th house. So it's somebody who's very private. Let me clean up the chart for a second here. Now, Kate has a very difficult karmic axis. For those of you that are familiar with Vedic astrology, this upside, right side up horseshoe is Rahu, and then the upside down horseshoe is going to be Ketu. So this is your karmic axis. They're always going to be 7 houses apart. Rahu shows us where the soul is really trying to develop or have new experiences within the current lifetime. And then Ketu shows where uh past life influences, and it also shows where the soul's not as interested. And there's an idea of there is expertise there from past lives, but there's also this idea of the soul, uh wherever K2 is in your chart, tends to not manifest. The results tend to be scattered, or there tends to be apathy in that house. So we'll talk about that for a moment. In the karmic axis of Princess Kate, Rahu's in the 12th, Ketu's in the 6th house. So there is this idea of she's had a lot of past lives with quite a bit of conflict. Okay. And that's where 6th house represents health challenges, conflict, disagreements. And she's also had some past lives as a royal, by the way, because Ketu's with Sun in the chart. So if any of you are wondering what your past lives may have looked like, you want to look at the 2nd house, but you also want to look at where K2 is in your chart. And you want to look at if there's any planets conjoining K2, because that's going to give you somewhat of an impression of what some of your past life experiences may have been. So Sun represents royalty. So there already was some sort of royalty or celebrity in past lifetimes. But if you look at where Rahu is in the chart, it's with the moon. There is this idea of developing more of a private life. So, on a deep soul level, the goal isn't necessarily to have this celebrity life with all this prestige. Even though it's happening, she's living this life. It doesn't mean that she's very happy with it or very interested in it because K2 is there. But the past life influences were strong enough that, Princess Kate was able to manifest actually being a literal princess in the royal family, which is pretty remarkable. The other thing I want to point out in Princess Kate's chart is we do have Mars and we do have Saturn together. And a lot of times this can show suppressed anger in somebody's chart. And the reason is because I like to say Mars is like hitting on the gas if you're driving a car, and then Saturn's going to be like driving with the brake on. So you see there's this push-pull dynamic in Kate's chart of, maybe she really would like to express herself in a lot of ways, with especially with all the criticism and what Harry and Meghan are saying. Maybe she really would like to go out there and really say what's on her mind, but she's being prevented because of social pressure. It could be the royal family. It could just be expectations that are placed by the advisors. So people around her are telling her, you can't do that. So she's feeling, this could indicate some suppressed anger there. Like, I really want to say what I think, but I can't say what I really want to think because of I have to act a certain way. I have to have a certain decorum with the royal family. Now, with Saturn in the sign of Virgo, this can indicate a lot of karma having to do with criticism. And so, not only can somebody with Saturn in the sign of Virgo be a critical person, they can be somebody that maybe they're very easy to find faults and find imperfections in things. They tend to become people that are either very good investigators or journalists. But Saturn in the sign of Virgo also indicates somebody that faces a lot of public criticism in their life. And so a lot of times they become critical people because it's like this learned defense mechanism. because people have been critical of them. They've learned to be critical of other people. So a lot of times that what the karma represents in the birth chart. So now let's take a look. We just pointed at a few of the things in the chart that I noticed that give us somewhat of an impression of Kate. Kate's a very empathic person. I feel like she's a very private person, intuitive, very sensitive, probably very sensitive to criticism. So she's probably really has a very strong opinion about everything that's happening with this Harry Meghan documentary. And in some ways, you know, when somebody has moon in the 12th house, it can show somebody that really they're really exposed. They can get really hurt over a lot of things that are said or a lot of criticisms that come their way. So I feel that when I look at the chart, you know, Princess Kate seems to be a lot like Princess Diana in a lot of ways. If you watch some of the interviews with Princess Diana, you'll notice that uh, that Princess Diana comes off as very sensitive, very meek. I was impressed when I saw some of the old interviews where she seems so empathic and so kind. And she doesn't seem like somebody that really enjoys the spotlight. Well, Kate's chart seems to indicate that that's who Kate is. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at more what's manifesting in Kate's life, especially since this Harry and Meghan documentary came out. Let's take a look at the chart again. In Vedic astrology, when we're looking at what type of karma is manifesting within the life at the moment, what we really want to look at first, even before transits, in Vedic astrology, you really want to look at the Mahadashas and the Bhuktis that are happening. And this is known as the Vimshottari Dasha system. And it's very specific to Vedic astrology. This is one of the reasons I got drawn to Vedic astrology because of this system right here. I find it amazing that with the Mahadashas and Bhuktis, you can really see what type of planets are being highlighted in the life right now, what kind of karma is being manifested in the life right now. So if we take a look at what type of Mahadasha, which is the larger period that Kate is in, Kate's in Mercury Mahadasha, and you can see Mercury is in the seventh house. And, you know, Mercury Mahadasha is a pretty long Mahadasha. She's going to be in this Mahadasha until uh, December 1st of 2027 when she enters K2 Mahadasha. But Mercury is in the seventh house. So there's a big focus on marriage. You'll also notice that it's next to Venus. So, you know, agreements, marriage is very much going to be in focus right now. And that's kind of obvious, right? We see that really in the media. But also, there is a lot of, you know, because we have to also look at the houses that Mercury rules. It rules the 12th house and it rules the third house. Well, there's also a lot of criticism that's happening right now. And Mercury can represent, you know, media communications. We know that the media is always, you know, following the royal family around. So the media is very much being highlighted right now. And I do feel like there's a sensitivity to the criticism that she receives, or that, you know, for example, apparently they were booed. I don't remember if I said this earlier, but apparently they were booed when they went to a basketball game in the US recently. And so that would be, you know, with Mars and Saturn in the sign of Virgo, that would be something that would hurt. It would hurt to be booed and be, you know, in that situation. So let's take a look at some other aspects in the chart here. All right. Okay, I had to pause for a moment to let my cat out of the room. Let's go back to the chart here. So besides looking at the Mahadasha, which is Mercury Mahadasha, we also want to look at the Bhukti. So more acutely, what's happening right now is Jupiter is actually really being highlighted right now. And Jupiter Bhukti is going to last until March 23rd of 2025. So we're really talking about the next 2 years, especially considering, you know, we're at the end of 2022. So the next 2 years are going to be very influenced by Jupiter. Okay. Now, Jupiter in in Princess Kate's chart is not necessarily, it's a mixed planet. And the reason why I say that is even though it rules the ninth house, which represents Dharma and represents God's grace and fortune and a lot of the good things in life, it also represents religion, higher philosophies, traveling abroad. It also rules the sixth house of Sagittarius. Okay, so that's where a lot of the karma is right now. A lot of the karma is actually being focused on more of her past life axis, which is the sixth house. So a lot of conflict, a lot of disagreement is entering the life script at the moment. So right now, there's a lot of conflict that's happening right now. Sixth house. And one of the issues in Kate's chart is because K2's there in the sixth house, what K2 can represent, K2 can be a bad thing in some ways when we're talking about the sixth house. So it can represent somebody who doesn't really want to pay a lot of attention to the enemies. So because K2 represents apathy. So it could show somebody like Kate, she really doesn't want to give them the attention that they want. You know, maybe she thinks they're a bunch of drama queens and they want a bunch of attention. But K2 shows an apathy there, but the enemies or the people that are contrary to what Kate's mission is can still cause a lot of damage in your life. So, for example, even if she's dismissing Harry and Meghan and the allegations and what they're saying, she's got to be careful because K2 represents kind of like an apathy. But the allegations can do damage. So she's got to be very careful. So this is a very, troubling part of the life right now. And I do see, there is this idea of, because K2 is kind of like, I give up, like, I don't want to deal with this right now. So there is this attitude, I don't really want to deal with all of this drama. Why are these people causing all this drama in my life right now? I don't really want to deal with this. But it's like she's being forced to deal with it in a lot of ways because Jupiter is still going to be activating this house. So I see a lot more disagreement now. I don't see it necessarily being bad for Princess Kate. In a way, we got translating Rahu in the 10th house of Aries in her chart, and the 10th house is all about, there's a lot of public visibility coming out of this. She's got a lot of public support. I just feel like it's, the sixth house and K2 being there can represent more of a personal type of thing, especially because the alternate house is going to be Moon and Rahu in the 12th house. So on a personal level, this could be a very difficult time. She doesn't want to deal with it. But I do feel like with Rahu transiting the 10th house, there still is a lot of support from the public in a general way. There still is a lot of support. Even if she faced this recent thing with being booed or having this thing that happened when Kate and William visited the US, I still feel like there's a broad level of public support with Rahu transiting the 10th house. And Rahu's going to be transiting the 10th house until October of 2023. So we still got another 10 or 11 months of a very broad public support that's happening right now. So that's very positive. The other thing I want to bring up is the big kahuna Saturn is transiting the 7th house right now as of when I make this video on December 26, 2022. But Saturn's going to be changing signs really shortly here on January 17th, 2023. We're going to see Saturn changing signs into the sign of Aquarius. This is going to be felt by everyone. So all of you watching this video, it's going to affect you very personally in your chart, wherever Saturn's going. So Saturn's going to be leaving the 7th house and entering the 8th house of Kate's chart. So the last 3 years, especially with this Saturn transit right now in Capricorn, the last 3 years since 2020 has been very much focused on marriage and agreements. Okay. Because that's what the 7th house represents. And Saturn in the 7th house represents, there's a lot of difficulties there. There's a lot of pressure there, but there is a lot of devotion to the marital contract. There's a lot of devotion to really sticking with your vows and really making things work, even though things are difficult. I do feel like there's probably a lot of difficulty, probably because of even the Harry and Meghan stuff that's coming out, can be bringing a lot of stress into the relationship. But Saturn transiting the seventh house is going to be a lot like a glue. It holds the relationship together. Now, one thing you're going to notice is Saturn's actually going to be there in the sign of Aquarius all of 2000, most of 2023. It's going to be there for 2.3 years. That's how long a Saturn transit takes. And in the eighth house, what I tend to feel like it represents, the eighth house usually represents some sort of emergencies or some sort of disaster or some sort of crazy events that manifest within the life. This could be in your outer reality, but it also could be in your inner reality. I noticed that this Saturn transit into the eighth house is happening right after this book that Prince Harry is about to release. As many of you are aware, the book is called Spare. And so I do feel like there's a lot of fallout coming out of this book. And we might even just see a lot of, besides the book and the internal shock and awe that might happen from this book, we also might see just a lot of crazy world events where things are kind of chaotic. Now, Saturn in the eighth house is going to show Saturn's going to bring a certain amount of stability. Saturn's actually going to make it so that Kate is able to weather all of this storm and all of these crazy events that are really brewing in the life over the next couple of years. But I do see some sort of shock with this book. And, we may see in this book, we may see some sort of allegations about maybe even the relationship with William and Kate that Harry makes. We might see some like really explosive type of allegations there that really rock the royal family. And then when Saturn's in the eighth house, there is this damage control mode. But like I said, when Saturn's going through the eighth house, Saturn freezes whatever house it's in. So there's this idea of like it's going to freeze a lot of the fallout that's happening with whatever's coming out in this book or whatever's happening in the world or whatever allegations are being made. It's freezing it. So Saturn's actually very beneficial whenever it goes through the sixth house, the eighth house, or the 12th house, because it freezes the negative results of that house. So I do see a lot of problems arising in the future, especially that she's in this Jupiter bukti. There's a lot more conflict. There's a lot more allegations coming forward. I do feel like she's going to be able to weather this storm, though. I feel like Saturn is going to have a very protective influence. And she may have to speak out. I mean, it might be one of these situations where William and Kate have to end up making a statement and actually countering some of these allegations that come out in this book or come out in some of these more of these interviews that they get in. So we'll see what happens with all of this, but it looks like it's going to be a wild ride for 2023. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think, Princess Kate, or maybe your interpretations of the astrology. Let me know down below with your comments. Also, I'm very interested in all of you letting me know if there's any more royal family members you'd want me to look at their chart. Let me know down below so I can do some more readings, because I really like doing the readings for the royal family. So thank you all, and I will see you in the next video.